Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Self-Leadership Podcast. Today Anna and I are joined by Ricardo Camarinha, who is a serial entrepreneur and father of 3. We covered a lot of ground in this episode today, and you can expect to learn a few things, including how a day led on the couch as a 33-year-old impacted Ricardo's self-leadership journey. We explored the link between Jujitsu and cooking, as well as the link between control and presence. One theme that we also covered was the idea of addition by subtraction, and how the idea of a fulfilled life may be found in the idea of having less in it. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We certainly did. And so without further ado, please welcome Ricardo Camarinha. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Self-Leadership Podcast. Today we are joined by Ricardo, and we've obviously had the pleasure of meeting you before, but for our listeners who haven't, would you mind giving them a nice introduction to who is Ricardo?
Ricardo, it's me. I'm a father of 3. I'm a 45-year-old guy, which still believes he's 31. The only thing that actually makes me believe I'm older than that is that I have 3 kids and that I have a job. Anyway, I've never worked for anybody in my life until the last 5 years. I've always built my own businesses, and I kind of drove my life all the time until now, since the last 5 years. It's also coincidental with the time that I had kids. And Ricardo also likes to do Jujitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighting, which is kind of meditation. And that's it. I think what defines me more, since I have kids, the father of 3. And then it'll stop. One day they'll grow up and I'll be just Ricardo, cool guy who likes to have fun again.
So, Ricardo, speaking of fun, what gives you the most joy right now in your life?
I think that there are a few pleasures, right? The kids give me quite a lot of joy, although they give me a lot of work, they give me quite a lot of joy. I think that that's kind of it. When you have kids, you live for them. They become your reason for existence, right? Their joy is your joy. And I also get a lot of joy from some things. Learning gives me a lot of joy.
I love it. Such constructive personal pleasures. Would you be comfortable sharing with our guests what 1 or 2 of the things are that you've been learning most recently?
Like everybody else in the world, I've been exploring quite a lot in the AI. It's something that you can't escape, and I'm kind of having fun. I'm having fun with all of the agents, with Cloud Code. I'm starting to build things again. The thing is, it makes it very easy to build things again, right? I can just start something with the laptop. I don't need a team. In the old days, I would need a team to do a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. And it doesn't take me that much time. I just need to give them instructions, create the right setup, and it works. So it's kind of super exciting, that one. That's one of the things that gives me pleasure. I'm learning a lot around that area. And the other stuff, as I said before, it's Jiu-Jitsu. Every time I do Jiu-Jitsu, for me, it's one of the biggest pleasures in my life, is Jiu-Jitsu. In the old days, a few years ago, I would tell you, drinking and eating. I still like both of them. Although the second sometimes makes me regret now that I have to wake up earlier than before. And the first one, I need to be careful so I don't do too much, but I do like to eat a lot. That's a non-constructive pleasure. I like to cook.
Ooh.
That's another one. Cooking is kind of meditation for me also. I like to cook. I get into the flow in the kitchen, and I just like to experiment new stuff. Now I have a huge barbecue, and I'm trying a lot of stuff with it.
Amazing. So lots of learning all around, and the learning on the AI side of things and kind of building things with the help of AI gives me the spidey sense that maybe in the not too distant future, Ricardo will be working for himself again and building things again.
It's always on top of my mind, that one.
That's fair. One thing that's been on my mind recently, Ricardo, I wanted to ask you, based on what you've just said, is the link between AI and parenting. And I wondered if it's something that you've thought about as like a combination. And the reason why I asked that is because I feel like my role as a father is almost to like prepare my son to become an adult. I think that's probably the most simplest form of like how I would summarize how I feel about my role as a parent. And I do feel like my son's 9. And I have no idea what world I'm setting him up to live in. That like I feel like a lot of the things that he might start to be thinking about he wants to do with his life may not even be there anymore, and I don't know what's gonna be there instead. So this is a very long-winded question, but I wondered, have you crossed that bridge of linking AI to parenting? Is that something that you thought about recently?
I do. I completely understand what you just said. I think about it. What will they do when they grow up? How can I drive them in a good direction? But I don't think I need to drive them. I need to support them effectively. My oldest kid is 7. He still wants to be a football player, but he also likes to create stuff. He's enrolled in a very interesting thing called the Inventors. He's learning electrical circuits. He's building elevators and lights and stuff. It's pretty cool. And I always try to incentivize them on things that will teach them how the world works. But I think the most important thing that I need to teach them, and it's very hard because they're kids, is logical thinking. Because if you are good at logical thinking, you will be good at in any kind of work. Within an AI world, give them instructions that actually work and that tell them what they need to know. And I'm kind of a pain in the ass in the house. If they ask me something which is not complete, I kind of give them the wrong thing so that they ask me the right thing the right way. But I've thought about it. You want to build a computer game? Come with me. I've thought about it. I thought about doing this. He loves also the oldest one. He loves computer games. He loves the Nintendo Switch. Come over. Do you want to do a game? Tell me what the game should do. I think it's a bit early. I think for now it's fundamentals of rational thinking, because you need to be able to do the rational thinking, right? Logic. I remember learning logic in philosophy classes, I think, or psychology. X, Y, else, if, which is effectively, I was learning in philosophy lessons the backbone of coding. And I think for me, that's the focus. That's what I need to teach them, how to think. That's my job. I'm not going to tell them what they'll do when they grow up, but I need to teach them how to think properly. And this is kind of a challenge because kids don't think like we do. I forbidden my kids to say, I don't want and I want. They're not allowed to say this to me. They can only say this to me if they have a why after, if they have an explanation. My 4-year-old daughter is crazy.
It's funny, in my experience, they're the 2 most common sentences that my children say as well. So I can understand why you put that there.
They said, this sentence is not allowed anymore, yes. And she was like, no, you don't decide what's not. Yes, I do.
It sounds like I've already got my first practical tip, Anna, for today's conversation. So I'm going to take that one already.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, let's move on then, if we can. I feel like we've kind of bridged nicely towards this question already. So, Ricardo, we wanted to understand a bit more about, what does living intentionally mean to you?
It's me living with a purpose, I think, of you need to have a purpose in life. That's what keeps us moving. I think every human being needs to have kind of a purpose in life. If they don't, they get a little bit lost. Even if the purpose is to just allow life to take you, because I lived like that for a while. Just whatever happens. Let's have fun. But that's kind of a purpose. Let's have fun. Let's be a good person and have fun. Let's let's help somebody else. Let's raise kids. Let's make a lot of money. Some people have different purposes. I think living life intentionally is understanding why you do certain stuff. And if you understand, and once I had a coach that actually kind of helped me in that direction. If you understand why you're doing things, you're happier with what you do and you're more comfortable with your decisions.
Wise words from that coach.
I wonder who it was.
Jokes aside, Ricardo, I'm really curious about how you go about becoming clear on your purpose. You know, you mentioned that for a while it was enjoying life, being a good person and going with the flow. At what point do you remember that point? Did you become conscious of that and kind of admit that to yourself and say, yes, that is what it is?
I'll tell you about my life history. I got married for the first time when I was 24 or 25, I think. Got divorced after 6-7 years. I had started doing Jujitsu a few years before, and I just decided to live life. That's when I met you, Anna, you know. I was renting my apartment. I was moving to Brazil. I moved to Brazil quite for some time to just do Jujitsu, have fun. Go to the beach, learn as much Jujitsu as you can, have fun, and live life. And at the time I got divorced, I also got divorced from one of the businesses that I had, from my second business. I was in the wine industry at the time. I also got out of that business. I don't know. I remember once I was on the couch, lying on the couch watching some TV show, whatever, or TV series. And I was thinking, I'm 33 now. If I want to get a job, I'll probably only get a job in wine, because that's what I've been doing in the last 6 years. Although I started in tech, then I moved to wine. I'll probably only get a job in wine. But I don't want to be a 60-year-old or 70-year-old guy who's a commercial or a sales role in a wine business. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to. There's no problem in being that person. I just didn't want to. And that's how it started to come into my mind that, okay, I need to find purpose in what I'm doing. I need to find something that interests me because work needs to be focused again. I've never seen work as a purpose in life. I was raised like that. My father, my grandfather, they both see work as a goal in itself. It's the reason it exists for. I've always seen work as a way to get what I need to fulfill my objectives. So I don't work because of the work. I work because I need to work. If I didn't need to work, I wouldn't work. Maybe I would because it's fun. Sometimes it's fun, depending on what you do. But I would do what I do more. So I think in that time in life, I kind of started thinking, if I wait too much time in this have fun mode, I'll be 40. And when you're 40, nobody gives you a good job if you don't come from a good job, or you need to build your own job. And that's when I started kind of engaging again. At the time, I've with another two guys, I built a travel startup. We raised kind of some money, and then I got back into tech. That drove me to where I am now. But yes, I think that was the moment. I remember perfectly being in the couch and thinking, I'm 33 or 34, and thinking of this idea. The only job that they will give me in 5 years, if I continue to do what I'm doing, is sales job, and stuff. And they are all like these guys with the large suits, badly dressed suits, all fat, drinking all day and eating, which I love eating and drinking. That's not how I saw. And so are all of you who may be listening to this stuff.
It could be worse. It could be worse.
But I kind of was that person before, because when I was in the wine industry, that's one of the reasons why I left. I was really tired of it because I was getting a lot of weight because all I did was drink and eat. And when I left it because I was tired of that and I didn't want to go back to that situation again.
Yeah. So it sounds like a very, very clear kind of inner knowing, hey, like this is not where I want my life to go. This is not where I want to be in 4 or 5 years' time. What's going to get me closer to where I want to be? And obviously that still leaves a very interesting question open. And I feel like you have already alluded to it a few times, but are you comfortable sharing what life purpose this new setup and this new job allows you to live for, given that it's not the job?
No, it's not a job. This needs to be done in steps, right? When you have a project, you need to divide it in steps, or you never should. At that time, when I was 33 and thought about this stuff, I never really thought about having kids. This was not in the plans. I didn't have my current wife. So at the time, I started building a business. I was having fun. That's two stuff. Now, since I have kids, it kind of shifted, as we were saying, Josh, before, I think. And if you have kids, Josh, you're completely understanding. The focus completely shifts. I know there are a couple of years where I need to support these people, these small people, to become bigger people and good people. I think this is where I am now. And for example, when I got this job, when we sold the business to the company where I work now, it kind of came at the same time that my first kid was born. And it made my life way more comfortable. It's comfortable working in a big organization where your salary gets paid every month. You don't have to be concerned about all of that stuff. You just need to do your job. That's comfortable when you have small kids and you want to be present in the house. For now, my goal in life is to raise these ones. And the job serves the purpose of raising these ones and spending time with them. I love spending time with them. There's nothing more than spending time with them, because they will grow up and they will not want to spend time with me anymore in a couple of years. So let's enjoy this one. While I'm
Not as much, but they will still enjoy spending time with you.
But I think the job is again giving me comfort and the life that I want to live. For now, it's giving me money to support my family. Of course, you always need the money. And the time to be with my family. This balance is very, very important. And this job kind of allows me to do it. If I was to start a business now, it would be hard. It's hard. Unless you have 3 or 4 partners that are doing a lot of the work for you and you are there in kind of more consultant way, it's really, really hard to spend time and starting to open business. But yeah, so step 1, raise these small kids until they are a bit more independent. They start to grow a little bit more independent. I can probably start thinking about being a little bit more independent myself. I think they will tell, don't worry that. Go and do something with your life.
Go find a purpose that's not us.
I actually think this is a really, really important lesson, actually, because ironically, I'm 33. So there's like a real like irony to your story here, and just timing. Like there's nothing more to it than that, really. But I actually came across this piece of advice the other day, and it really hit me, as Anna could probably understand why, for the last couple of months. Is like, you don't need to be 100% in all of the areas of life at the same time. And like, I think if someone's listening to this podcast, or the guests that we've had on this podcast, like typically they're quite front-footed people who want to live intentionally, want to move forward in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's a really important piece of advice. And I think that's exactly what you've talked to there. It's actually, I don't need to have every area mapped out right now. Like, at this moment in time, in this season of my life, I think was the quote, my kids are the priority. And in a different season, maybe that will change. But like, it doesn't all need to be 100% right now.
I agree, but I still struggle with it. I'll tell you.
Yeah, me too.
Still struggle with it. Sometimes I just want to do something different. And I like, but I have no time. It's hard. I have these internal conversations, which I think we all have, that you get restless. And that's when you need to bring yourself back to what matters, and focus on what matters now. And if you do that, it's fine. I think you need to make yourself happy for giving up some stuff, I think.
Well, I feel like this is the perfect segue to dig into a bit more detail on how you go about doing that. As you say, it can be a struggle. So let's hear about just how you try, at least, to do this. So without further ado, Ricardo, what is your self-leadership practice number one?
What's my self-leadership practice number one? Kind of, I would call it meditate, but meditation can be in several forms. It don't need to be in one place, hearing your breath and feeling your body. I do that also. I don't do that as often as I would like to. I think it's meditating, putting things in perspective. For me, that's an important one, which I mentioned a few times, which is the Jujitsu thing. I've done a lot of sports throughout the years. Jiu-jitsu, for me, it's different, because when I'm there and somebody's fighting me, if I think of something, I'll just get them. So during that hour that I'm there, or hour and a half that I'm there, my brain gets completely disconnected. It's kind of the isolation tanks that you mentioned before. So every time I'm struggling, or I'm having issues on decisions on how to do stuff, if I go to a jiu-jitsu training, it immediately usually gets clear. I go there, I sweat, and for an hour I don't think about anything. And the people that are there are all people very different from me. Different backgrounds, completely different interests. And I just talk a bit with them. When it ends, I can talk to them completely freely. It's fine. Then I go home, and my brain is usually better than when it started. I think you need to reset sometimes. We are always connected, looking at the phone, looking at the other laptop that I have here, the big laptop that I've shut down on purpose, or I wouldn't be able to have this call, because I would just be looking at the emails coming in. We are always connected. The world is always connected. The most important self-leadership activity that I do is actually try and disconnect. There's nothing I love more. Also, like, that's a second practice. There's nothing I love more than, for example, my holidays, to just put my phone away. Don't even. I've called you. Sorry. And for example, I always do 3 weeks holidays. Since I have kids, I do 3 weeks holidays. I've never done it before, but with kids, I do 3 weeks. It's brilliant. On week 3, you don't even remember you have a job.
Oh, I love that, and I'm so excited to delve into that second self-leadership practice around the holidays, because yeah, what a beautiful self-leadership practice. Before we do, Ricardo, a few follow-up questions on leadership practice number one, if I may. By the sounds of it, you've really found the perfect sport for yourself, the perfect practice for yourself that allows you to really be 100% present and reset. You've also mentioned that you've tried other types of sports and it hasn't quite been like that. So what I'm curious about is, how did you go about finding that perfect fit? And what about jiu-jitsu makes it the perfect fit for you?
I know how I found it. I know exactly all my history in martial arts, because I've done other martial arts before. But I studied in a boys' school. Sport was always a thing. When I was a kid, I was in love with football and basketball. Then I played all of those things. I also had tennis lessons, and I kind of played a little bit of tennis. I played a lot of stuff. I like team sports. To be fair, I like football. I still like football, basketball, all that stuff. I have a bad knee, which doesn't really allow me to. It was actually a football injury when I was like 15, and I never really got perfect again. If it was today, I think they have a lot of other ways to correct knees. In the old days, it wasn't that easy. I still have to use screws on my knees. But anyway, I do like team sports, but I always also liked martial arts. And once a friend told me, I'm going to do some self-defense training. Do you want to try it out? And I went, me and my brother. It was a Kung Fu academy. Chinese martial arts academy. And I thought it was fun. And I enrolled in Kung Fu and Tai Chi at the same time. Tai Chi, like the stuff that Chinese.
Yes.
And I did Tai Chi for quite a few years, actually. But then I wanted something a little bit more physical. Kung Fu was super physical, but I wasn't really fit for the thing. They would fly around, jump stuff. It was very acrobatic. And I wanted something more physical. I tried a bunch of stuff. I tried Aikido. I did some boxing, which is another martial art also. But then when I tried Jujitsu, I really, really liked it. And what I like in it, it's, of course, being strong and in good physical shape is important, but it's kind of a chess. It's like a human chess. What I like in it is that I can still be one of the older guys in the mat, and I'm usually one of the older guys in the mat, and one of the less fit guys in the mat, which is 99% true all the time. And I can still actively do a very good training. It's about control of what's happening. It's not about moving more or having more strength. It's about controlling it. You need to be smart. You need to be calm under pressure. And you need to be able to be in control of the others and yourselves, because sometimes you are in an uncomfortable position. You need to control yourself to be able to live in the uncomfortable position. I think Jiu-Jitsu is actually a very good learning for how to live life intentionally, right? Sometimes you are in a very uncomfortable moment, but you need to find a strategy to get out. In order to find a strategy to get out, you need to control what you're feeling when you are feeling uncomfortable. So it helps me reset because I'm in control of myself.
It sounds like a very powerful combination, actually, in the sense that, yes, it requires embodiment and some physical strength and training, and at the same time it requires emotional, as you say, kind of self-awareness and self-regulation, then the element of control, and on top of that the element of strategy and having that meta view of what's going on. So no wonder you can't help but be fully present in the moment. And I guess my final question on this is, for someone who might be listening to this podcast and who's thinking, hey, I would love to try some sort of practice that might help me with resetting and with being more present, and they don't know where to start, what would your recommendation be?
I think each one of us needs to find their thing, right? Some people like to run. I hate running. The fact that I have a bad knee doesn't help, but I always hated running. I hated running. My wife, for example, she likes to do CrossFit. She goes to CrossFit. She's very happy with the CrossFit training. I have too many injuries. I've tried, but I have too many injuries, too many small pains here and there. So it just frustrates me. You need to find something that doesn't frustrate you, that makes you kind of happy to succeed. I also played paddle tennis, which is very trendy, or was very trendy a couple of years ago. And I had a big group. Now I kind of stopped for the last year because of my knee. But anyway, I used to play it every weekend. Sometimes when I got lost, I got so furious. And I got home in the worst mental condition than I was left. And with Jiu-Jitsu, this never happens. No matter if I win or if I lose. It's not about winning or losing. It's about being in control. But I think you need to find something that, if you're looking for some activity or physical, you need to find something that makes your brain reset. And I don't think it's the same for everybody. I personally do recommend any type of fighting, because in any type of fighting, you will reset automatically, or you just get beaten. But I know it's not the same for everybody. Scuba diving, for example, did that for me. But diving, you need to be in a boat at 7 in the morning somewhere else. They try the boat for an hour. It takes too many hours. I've been wanting to try golf, because somehow I think golf will have kind of the same feeling. It's again about being in control, to be honest. But I never had time to have golf lessons. Maybe one day.
I've pinned that for a different season in my life. Let's go back to our conversation earlier, because I've tried it and I'm bad at it. And I think the time that it takes to get good at it is a time that I can't commit right now. And so if I did it, like you just said, I would get frustrated. So it's like I've saved that for a future season where I can commit the time. So it sounds to me like the theme for you, though, is like consumption of thought. I just thought it was interesting that, like, Jiu-Jitsu, clearly when you're doing it, it's all encompassing. It's that you can't think about what you're having for tea that night because you've got something right in front of you that you have to solve. And the same with diving. Whereas the running situation, Anna and I have talked about this before, I have the same thing. If I'm running, it makes me worse because I've got nothing to think about other than what's already in my head. Whereas I have it with football, where, like, when you're playing football, everything's moving around you, so your only choice is to be present. That shuts off my thinking, and it sounds like it's quite a similar pattern for you as well.
Yeah. There's another thing that shuts down your thinking. And you'll notice from kids, if you're on the weekend with the kids at home, you always have something to do, right? There's always some activity going around.
Too many things to think about.
The weekends, they fly. They go by like 2 hours. Is it over already?
Yeah.
You are so busy always doing stuff. They reset your brain. You get sometimes with my kids, they're so small and so active that weekends actually feel like a jujitsu training, a very long jujitsu training. I don't stop all the weekend. I'm super tired Sunday afternoon. After 4:30 on Sunday, I don't want to do anything else. I just want to go. I'm so tired Sunday after. But I'm happy because my brain has reset.
It's so strange that you say that, because obviously this podcast is about you, but there's so many similarities here. I've said this to Anna before, that 4:30 to 6:30 on a Sunday is my bookmarked rest time. Like, everybody knows that is my 2 hours, because in the UK, it's usually the biggest football game of the weekend is the 4:00 kickoff on a Sunday. And like, I will keep going at any minute of any other day, but the 4 till 6 on a Sunday is like my weekend. In that 2 hours, I could rest for 2 days in 2 hours.
If I'm out, or if at my parents having lunch, for example, or if I go to the sports club, have lunch, and they were running around 4:30, it's time to go home. 4:30, because we need to stop. And the kids love, they have the habit of asking McDonald's at weekends. Can we get McDonald's at Sundays? And I always allow them to watch that. I just want them to stop.
Whatever it takes.
Movie. Let's watch some movie. It's 6:00. Let's watch some movie on TV.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, let's move on to practice number 2. It feels like we're going to go a long way from the jiu-jitsu mat, having had a glimpse at this practice already. So let's move on, shall we? Ricardo, what is your second self-leadership practice?
I think the second practice, the most important practice, getting out of or trying to disconnect and just be present. I think this is a very important practice for me, and I do it at weekends all the time. And I actually do it at nights. A lot of people just respond on their phone at night. I'm not very responsive at night because I not to look at my phone. I think it's disconnecting for me. It's a very important practice. Put my phone away. Don't see my messages. Don't see my emails. This is something I've learned with time. In the old days, I would always respond to emails. Like somebody sending me an email at 10:00, I would respond at 10:01. You get FOMO, all right? You really want to get into the flow. Now I don't have any type of FOMO. For me, that's very important because it releases anxiety. When you're always connected, you get anxious. You always want to know what's happening, and then you are there. Why doesn't he answer me? Why doesn't she answer me? What's happening? And if you just learn to disconnect and stop it, you will learn to wait for stuff. I think it's getting back to the 90s. I think my second self-leadership practice is going back to the 90s where mobile phones would not exist and people just get disconnected. We are not that stimulated all the time, so we can be present. And I know it's very, very hard. Most people don't do it. I see very close people to me who just sit on the sofa. Let's watch some TV series. And they are watching the TV series and doing at the phone. People are multitasking all the time, which means they're actually doing anything because none of the time is done properly.
100%.
You don't really watch TV series and you don't really watch what's happening on your phone.
I agree. I mean, for the record, multitasking is not a thing, right? Like, multitasking is switching in very quick periods of time between 2 tasks, but it's physically impossible to do 2 things at the same time. And anyone who will claim otherwise, I challenge you. However, on the disconnection point, Ricardo, what does that look like in practice? So you mentioned at night there is no phone time. Do you have like a specific cutoff time every day?
No, I just put the phone away. I usually don't even know where it is. Sometimes I had moments in life where I got addicted to stupid phone games like everybody else, like Jewels or whatever. And every time I got addicted to one of those games, I was like, I'm spending so much of my time on this stuff. I could use it to do so many other things. And you do a forced reset and you put your phone away. So sometimes when you get I have a new project or something that takes a little more time, I do get the phone. It doesn't always happen like that. It's like, I think in any addiction, you tend to go back to it and then fight it and put it away again. But I think with time, and I got really good at this in the last couple of years. I think the kids help because they distract. When I got really good at this, I just prefer not to have the phone with me. In the summer, if I'm on vacation, as we mentioned before, it's very easy because I don't like to take the phone. It's more weight. I just put it somewhere. I put it somewhere in the backpack and I look at it once per day or twice per day. At the house, it's not that easy, but it has become easy. Sometimes I don't know where my phone is. And this is very, I find it actually good because I see most people have their phone all the time and have nothing against mobile phones. And they are very, very useful, but you need to be able to disconnect. You need to be able to get control of your time. It's all about fighting the addiction. I think in anything in life, it's about fighting the addiction. You may be addicted to work. You may be addicted to looking at Instagram reels or whatever. You may be addicted to eating chocolate. You own your life, not the addiction.
Is it a fight though, Ricardo? Is it fighting the addiction, or is it learning to live with it more skillfully?
I know. I think it's more like that. It's not really fighting. You don't really fight it. For example, I love chocolate. I just mentioned one of it that I'm more addicted. Every time that I have a coffee after lunch or every big meal, lunch or dinner, I have a small piece of chocolate. But I do have a small piece of chocolate. I get 2 squares of chocolate and I eat 2 squares of chocolate. My wife, because if she picks the chocolate, she eats the full thing. I don't. The chocolate meal lasts more than a week in my fridge. It's exactly that. It's learning how to live with it. It's understanding your weaknesses and learning how to live and owning yourself, and not your weaknesses, owning yourself. And I think this can apply to every type of addiction,
including crackers.
Including these ones, yes. I have 3 here, and I'm fighting about who we can do in our conversation.
Love it.
I wish you well with the recovery, Ricardo, on this one. You need the on the pathway to recovery for your cracker addiction.
No, but the crackers, the way I handle it, I don't buy them all the time. I just buy this every 2 weeks. And in Gildan, I used to buy like 3 packages. Now I don't. I buy 1.
Learning to live with it skillfully.
There you go. Exactly. There you go. Well, Ricardo, we've had Jujitsu as a form of meditation. We've had disconnecting by putting the phone away. What is our third self-leadership practice for today?
It's all connected. But if I say that it's being where you are, I think the most important self-leadership practice is being present. When you are in a conversation, really being that conversation. When somebody's talking to you, really listen to that person talking to you. When you are doing an Excel spreadsheet, really do the Excel spreadsheet. This will summarize all of the other ones because all the other ones are about that. I've also mentioned before that I really like cooking, for example, and cooking does that to me. It's like Jujitsu, like writing. If you love to cook dinner parties, the more people I have in the house, the more confusion, the more stuff I have to do, the happier I am in the kitchen. Like I don't want to give you a lot of work. I love the work. Just please give it to me.
You're describing my nightmare.
It's like on vacation. I go on vacation with a family. I cook for everybody all the days. And the others, we used to go with my family and friends with their kids, and I used to cook for everybody. And I'm very happy. It's about organizing yourself. It's about controlling it. It's about owning and being present. I don't mind in the vacation, for example, to wake up earlier and to do all the meals in the morning, and it's all ready for the night. And then I go and have a great day in the beach. I'm very happy with that. I think it's about being present and being in control and organizing. There are so many stimulus around you, so many requests for attention. I think the best self-leadership practice is the ones that help you organize your brain and understand where you're going.
And I love how being present and being in control seem to go very much hand in hand for you across the board. And I'm very curious to understand how you see that link between presence and being in control.
I think one is impossible without the other one. Being present is impossible without being in control. So let's imagine actually work at home environment. I'm having a one-on-one with somebody that works with me, and I get the email from my boss or an email from somebody in an external company who's working on a big project where everything is going badly. It's really, really hard to be talking with that person without being reading the other stuff around. The only way to do this is to be actually in control. The only way to be present is to control your focus. And I think this is really, really hard. And I don't always succeed. I fail a lot of times. I've been in Teams meetings looking at my personal email on the other side, like everybody does. But I try not to do it.
So it's the effort and intention behind being present and intentional that for you is being in control. And say somebody's listening, Ricardo, and they're like, this sounds great, but I don't know if I have control. I don't know if I can build up control. I don't know where to start. What's a tip you would give to that listener?
Don't think about control. I think you get anxious. If you start thinking that you need to be in control of yourself, you will immediately get anxious. It's all about small steps. I think it's all about small wins. It all starts with small wins. If you're on a Teams meeting, don't see your email. Turn off notifications. Notifications are useful, but turn them off when you are on a meeting. I don't know. It's about small habits that you need to are damaging your capacity to be present. Don't pick your phone when you're having dinner with somebody. If you're at a table with somebody or with friends, don't pick your phone. Why would you pick your phone? You're already having conversations. Why do you need to talk with somebody else somewhere else? It's about small wins. But if people start to think that I want to be in control of me, I don't think about being in control. But if I look at what I do from an external perspective, like I'm trying to do now with some hindsight, I understand it's a lot about control, but it's not something that I actually think about in my daily life.
One step at a time, and control is the natural byproduct. And as I was just listening to you, I felt like control seems to be another word for intentionality.
Yes, or self-awareness. It's all kind of connected, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so beautiful on point for living life intentionally.
Agreed. I think there's another sub theme as well that I was reflecting on as well. You've definitely highlighted one, but the other one I was thinking about is actually the summary would be like it's addition by subtraction. And like a lot of the things that you've said in the 3 practices so far is where you can really add to yourself or the environment that you're in by removing a lot of other things. So if that's jujitsu, it's like the reason why that adds to you is because it's the removal of so many other things at that point in time. If it's the holiday, it's a similar theme. If it's the phone, it's removing that stimulus from you so you can focus on something that matters. And I was thinking actually that is a theme that's come up in other podcasts, not directly. I don't think anyone's actually said this directly, but that there seems to be a sub theme here of control to go another level on is the removal of other things
or selection. It's like
selection.
That intentionally. It's selection because there are so many things that you can touch or so many things you can learn. You need to choose. Our brain doesn't have the capacity to handle all this stuff, right? At the same time, you need to do one thing at a time, or you won't do anything. And I'll be completely honest. I do like to do a lot of stuff, and I like to keep myself busy, and I like to be involved in a lot of stuff, and I like to learn a lot of stuff. But I've understood that if you don't define priorities and you don't learn how to select, you end up not doing any of those things. So you get more satisfaction if you do them once at a time.
It's also why we call it a practice, because we understand that it's never finished and none of us are perfect at doing it. So we like your humility for sure. Well, let's see if the theme continues with our 4th self-leadership practice, if you wouldn't mind sharing, Ricardo.
Prioritization is very, very important. To understand what's important. That's the only way you can define the intention. If you know what's important, what's more important than it. And this applies to your life in general. It also applies to every small task that you do in life. If you're assembling an IKEA furniture, you need to understand what to do first. You can't assemble everything together, right? There's an order of things. And you need to be able to establish and understand the order of things to make them work properly. That's one of the very interesting things about cooking. The order of things is actually very, very important. While you're cooking, the order that you do stuff, very easy stuff. If you do a ratatouille with a lot of vegetables, they don't all take the same time to cook. You can't just put them all boiling at the same time. You need to put them in order. I think that applies to everything in life, because in the end, you want them to all be perfectly cooked. So you have to prioritize, understand the orders, understand cooking times, and then cook them like that. For me, it's very, very important. Before I do anything, I need to understand what I'm doing, because that's what allows me to establish how everything needs to be done. And again, this applies to all tasks, but it also applies to life, right? If I'm living my life, I need to understand what is the intention of my life and what I'm doing in order to understand what the priorities are and what I should be doing first.
Yeah. So it's understanding what you're doing, and I guess why you're doing it, and then the order and the priorities in terms of the how. And Ricardo, practically speaking, what does that process look like? Could you give us an example of, it can be small, but how do you go about figuring out what am I doing, why am I doing it, and how I'm going to do it?
I think it kind of depends, right? For life in general, I've had many crises, as you know.
Haven't we all?
Small tasks are easier to deal. I like to make lists, and I still do one thing very old-fashioned, which is write on paper. and to the visual flows on paper and to write lists and to organize stuff, because I tend to think that writing helps me think. I'm not sure if it happens to everybody. Maybe it does. I think some people are just extraordinary thinkers. I don't think I'm an extraordinary thinker, but I do know that I think better when I talk because I'm conscious of what I'm saying and when I write. So I think these two habits is what helps me put things in order. If I have somebody I can discuss it with and have like this type of conversation, it will help me put things in order. Or if it's something that I have to do myself, I just like to write. Sometimes I write instructions like if I'm talking to an AI agent, this is what you need to do for this purpose. This is what it shouldn't be doing.
This is excellent. I really like the addition of this is what you shouldn't be doing. You know, I usually, when I do my writing and my reflection, I focus very much on this is what I want or should be doing, but I don't go into I shouldn't be doing that. It's very interesting.
No, but for example, for AI agents, you need to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Or just create answers like you need to work on this topic. If you don't know the answer, don't find one.
Absolutely. But I like also applying it to oneself. There is merit in that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's important to establish the boundaries of it. For me, at least, writing or talking about it, it's very important. It's how my brain works. If you write something and take it out of your head, immediately becomes something else. You know that you know this habit. Maybe you guys do it. If you go to bed and you're thinking about some tasks that you need to do tomorrow, you should never do that. The first thing I do is I write it. Because if I write it, my brain gets comfortable that stuff is somewhere and it allows me to sleep. I don't think about it anymore. And I've been in more stressful periods in bed, picking up my phone actually to write notes of stuff that I want to take out of my head because I want to be able to sleep. And I think writing has that power. It takes stuff out of your head, it puts them somewhere else, and then you can put them in perspective.
Big time.
I wonder if that's going to be one of the underrated pros of AI. Is actually when you were talking about it then, and you spoke about it earlier about the ability to like prompt AI well. I feel like one of the underrated skills there is actually being able to like organize your thoughts into a logical format so that you can articulate it more clearly. And like you said, in that when we converse normally, like it can be quite difficult on the spot to communicate clearly with structure, with clarity, but actually like the writing down of the prompt and putting it in that structure is like, I notice it helps me to kind of massage these thoughts myself. Maybe that'll be like an underrated pro of AI.
I agree. You need to really be able to put in what you want.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't do what you need it to do. And if you talked like that with everybody in your life, it would probably be great. Some people wouldn't.
Agreed.
Or for a relationship, when you become too rational in a relationship, my learning tells me that sometimes people don't like you to be too rational when you are kind of...
You're not alone. There's no romance in rationale, Ricardo.
No, I know. You need to get control of yourself and try not to make everything a scientific conversation.
But on that note, let's see if we can squeeze one final self-leadership podcast out of you if we can. Have you got one more that you can share with us, Ricardo?
Starting from prioritizing, we move to writing. I think writing is kind of something that I could add in. It's important to take things out of your brain and put them in perspective sometimes. I'm never going to be a writer. Nobody will ever read what I write. But for me, it's important. Sometimes I don't even read it. I just organize it because I took it out.
That cognitive load is just completely gone, right? The page is holding it for you, the phone is holding it for you, and it's almost like a palpable relief. And then when you see it on a page, it's also, you can move stuff around, right? You can structure it, you can, all of a sudden, there's so much more control available.
Yes, and in this one, I think, yes, control available. You've went to the control world again, but I think hardware is a big, sensitive piece of hardware with limited capacity. So we need to be able to remove some stuff. Also, one of the things that I do like to do, and I've been doing it a lot less since I have kids, is reading. I was addicted for years on all types of behavioral neuroscience, and I'm Levitin, all of those guys. I read all of those books. Thinking Fast and Slow. Everybody read that one, but it's a brilliant one. Learning how your brain works. There's another very good one. Why Do We Sleep? Yeah, called Matthew White, I think. It's also brilliant. It teaches you a lot about, which is something that I never actually cared about sleep until recently. I was not able to sleep as many hours as I know. But I know now sleeping is super important. And I do feel sleep to be super important. But I started writing, went back to reading, which is something that I don't do that as often as I would like to. I used to read a lot in the vacations. Now I don't. I just play football or go and stand-up paddle or...
Look,
I'm going to teach them to go fishing, although I don't know how to fish.
A good book I recommend on the writing things down that really helped me was David Allen's Getting Things Done. I think it can overcomplicate itself a little bit depending on how far you want to take it, but that was the book where I had that exact epiphany that you described, that our brain is not a storage system. It's for getting ideas, but not for keeping them. And so if someone is listening to this thinking, actually, everything at the moment is in my head, how do I get it out? That is a book or a podcast, to be fair. You can get most of it from podcasts he's been on.
I think I read one called Diary of an Organized Mind. I think that was the title.
Yes.
Then it was written. One of these books, I don't know exactly what, mentioned the thing that I keep telling my wife, that she makes fun of me, that because I don't know anybody's birthday. I don't know anybody, but she knows everybody's birthdays. And in somewhere in one of these books said, when people are together, good relationships work in this way, that we don't both need to do the same things or know the same. We need to be complementary so that the two of us are more than one and 1 + 1 effect.
Yeah.
But it's actually true. There's a lot that you just learn how to trust to other people. That's also a good soft leadership practice, is to trust people. Because when much about control, you end up, and somebody's listening to this one, I'll probably end up appearing like a control freak.
That's because I keep bringing it back to control. Apologies.
But actually, learning how to trust other people, I think it's a very, very important self-leadership practice. Learning how to trust that whatever you need the other one to do, it will be done. Because if you don't do it, the cognitive load will continue to increase. If you need to be on top of mind of what everybody else wants to do, if you want to control everything going around, your brain gets completely overloaded with stuff. Trusting people, I think it's a good self-leadership practice. If you are kind of a person who likes control, it's hard to trust people sometimes.
Well, Ricardo, we struggled to get to 4 and we've ended up with 6. So with that in mind, could I ask you to give a summary of the 5 you'd like to recap for our listeners, please?
It's all about getting a grip of your life, I think. We mentioned, in my case, Jujitsu or fighting as some type of meditation. We've mentioned disconnecting. I think disconnecting was a very important piece. And it's actually connected to everything that we've talked to. We mentioned doing one thing at a time and being present. It's also very important. We've mentioned helping your brain not to be overloaded. Writing, taking notes, talking as a way to think. And we mentioned a lot of other stuff. It was a big conversation, actually very small. I think these are kind of the most important topics.
It was an interesting conversation for sure, Ricardo. It's been great to speak to you today. I wanted to finish with a reflection I had. That you mentioned in your introduction that philosophy was an example of you starting to learn a logical mind. And then we kind of dovetailed our conversation into AI and preparing ourselves and our children for a future world. And like there was a connection in the 5 answers that you gave, or 6 answers that you gave, that I thought was quite ironic, is that a lot of these questions are questions that we've had forever. And actually a lot of the things that we're trying to do now is to how do we ask the questions we've always asked in a world where there's so many other things around us, right? Like what's important has been a question that we've had to ask ourselves as humans from day one, right? Like, where do we get food from? That's important. How do I stay safe? That's important. How do I connect with others? Like, these are age-old questions that we're still trying to like master in a modern world. So I thought there was like a nice asymmetry to the conversation today that I want to finish with.
Yeah, I think because in the end we are the same animals. The world has evolved. We've created a lot of new stuff around us to help us live better, or more intentionally, depends on the intention that people have sometimes. We've created a lot of that probably would make be better non-created. Anyway, we've created a lot of stuff. What surrounds us changed a lot, but in the end, we are the same animal. These fundamental necessities are still the same, right? And the fundamental questions are also still the same. One thing that keeps me anxious every time I think it, and I think it probably makes everybody anxious, is why do we exist, right? If you start thinking about human existence, there are people in other planets, stuff like that, all of that. The thinking about an idea of God makes me anxious, all of that stuff, because it's something that I'm not in control of. And it's a very, very important topic. You need to understand that sometimes you're not in control.
That question is worthy of a podcast episode in its own right. So maybe we'll reserve the right to explore that at a different date. But for now, Ricardo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest on our podcast. So thank you so much for your time and your openness today. It's been great. If any of our listeners feel the same way, then make sure that you hit subscribe so that you can catch all of our future conversations with equally awesome guests. But for now, Ricardo, Anna, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It's been amazing.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.